Hello students. So uh, finally we finished the discussion on heart, and from today onwards I will start the teaching and discussion on vascular physiology. As I have told you earlier that cardiovascular system are distinctly of two broad structural component. One is heart, is a electromechanical coupling organ, and we have discussed in detail about the electrical aspect and also the mechanical aspect during our last 7 or 8 classes. And there is vascular system or the pipelines, conduit or pipelines which carry the ejected cardiac output, which contain the ejected cardiac output, and it is being carried to the cells, to the distalmost and distantmost cell of our body, and each of the trillions of cells of our body are having some kind of vascular supply. So this vascular system is an enormous system and having certain very specific characteristics which we need to understand for coming few classes. So we term this as vascular physiology. Now, in cardiovascular system, if we just rehash or recapitulate our earlier equation of cardiovascular system, that means Q dot is equal to delta P by delta R. Just try to remember, that was the first expression of my first class in the introduction class. Q means flow rate, volume per unit time is equal to a ratio of pressure difference divided by resistance difference. And it is the pressure part which is the function of heart. In the main, the pressure part is the function of heart, which generates the perfusion pressure or the driving pressure. That perfusion pressure or driving pressure is driving the blood or causing the blood flow. That driving pressure is causing the blood flow. So this is the flow, and this is causing the blood flow, and it is the delta P, which is the function of heart. But for our purpose, in this section of my deliberation, we shall mainly deal with the vascular system, and the denominator or delta R is representation of the vascular system. So in coming few classes, again coming 3 or 4 classes, we shall mainly involve ourselves in understanding how the vascular system of our body respond and behave against the bodily need. As and when our bodily need, portion of the body or whole of the body requirement is increased or decreased, it is how the vascular system respond and adapt itself in order to fulfill or satisfy optimally and appropriately. So I use certain adjectives. So appropriately and optimally they can be satisfied, the requirement is being met, and that is the function of cardiovascular system. Two parts: one is development of pressure generation by an unique organ of electromechanical coupler, and that is the pressure generating organ, and the pipelines which is maintaining the resistance and thereby regulating the flow in different parts of the body or in some section of the body, some region of the body. Now, so with this a brief introduction, let us enter into the anatomical part or structure of the vascular system. Now, vascular system, as I have told you, are broadly two. So this is the one is a pulmonary system, pulmonary vascular system supplying the to lung. So supplying the to lung pulmonary vascular system, and the systemic system, systemic vascular system, or systemic circulation. Systemic circulation is supplying the upper part of the body, head, neck, brain, and lower part of the body, abdomen, lower limb, etc. So there is a two distinct kind of circulation. One is systemic circulation supplying the upper and lower part of the body. Another is pulmonary circulation supplying the two lungs. And this part I have discussed in detail. So accordingly, there are two circulation. One is a greater circulation originating from the left heart, ending in the right heart. Another is lesser circulation originating in the right ventricle and terminating in the left atrium. So there are two distinct kind of circulation. One is lesser circulation or pulmonary circulation. Another is greater circulation or systemic circulation. So this is the leveling. So one is supplying the lung by pulmonary artery and vein, and then supplying the system by systemic arteries and systemic veins. And these are the various portion of these two distinct kind of circulatory tree. So this is again a easy and schematic representation of the circulatory system. You can very clearly see most of the circulations are remained in parallel, but there are examples where circulatory systems are also placed in series. So there are sub-circulatory system, that means hepatic circulatory system, digestive circulatory system, renal circulatory system, circulatory system of the lower half of the body, circulation of the lung or pulmonary circulation, circulation of the upper half of the body. So everything, it is being clearly depicted in this diagram. Now, how does these systems work? So that is my question. How does these systems work? So truly speaking, as I have mentioned time and again, that our circulatory system is a double circulatory system. So it has, that means it has got two parts. One is body cells or systemic circulation, another is pulmonary circulation or lung. So you may be a bit surprised because I am mentioning this description repeatedly, time and again, because it is very, very, very important to understand. Many students do not have this clean-cut specific idea that our circulatory system are distinctly two type of system or a double circulatory system. One is a pulmonary system or lesser circulation, and systemic system or systemic circulation or greater circulation. So let it be. So these are, so, and in other way also, there is one is the right side of the heart, another is the left side of the heart. Right side of the heart is mainly dealing with the deoxygenated blood, and left side of the heart is mainly dealing with the, or left side of the system is mainly dealing with the oxygenated blood. So these things are all known to you. So if we summarize the whole issue, again this slide has been shown to you earlier also. So one is systemic circulation, another is pulmonary circulation, which is systemic circulation also known as greater circulation, in contrary to the lesser circulation, that is pulmonary circulation. It is also a central circulation. Pulmonary circulation is a central circulation and systemic circulation is a peripheral circulation. And systemic circulation is a high pressure, high resistance circulation, whereas pulmonary circulation is a low pressure, low resistance circulation. One is high pressure, high resistance circulation, another is low pressure, low resistance, highly distensible system, whereas systemic circulation is greater circulation, it is peripheral circulation, it is a high pressure, high resistance, but low compliance, low stretchability, low distensibility of that circulation. So these are the two distinct kinds of circulation. In support of all these things, I have discussed something when I have discussed the heart, the difference between the left heart, that means left ventricle, and right ventricle in terms of its distensibility and stiffness. Just in the last class I discussed this thing. So this is also another very important issue. So with this backdrop, let us enter into a more detailed understanding or microstructure of the vascular tree. So, for a typical vascular tree, we shall take the illustration of systemic circulation. When we discuss something, we ordinarily discuss the systemic circulation because systemic circulation is enormous, it is greater, and all the different characteristics of a circulation are clearly reflected, are clearly present, distinctively present in the systemic vascular tree. So, as a typical circulatory tree, we shall mainly discuss the systemic circulation. Will finally drain into vena cava that is not being shown. So, arterial system is starting with aorta of the aorta. So, I have not shown aorta here. So, aorta, after that large elastic vessels, then large muscular distributing arteries, then small arteries or arterioles, then capillaries, then venous system. In venous system, we can write like that: small vein, venule, and large vein, finally leading to vena cava. So this is the downstream description of the vascular tree, vascular circuit from arterial side towards the venous side. Now all these things are known to you almost, I know. Now let us take up one by one. So one of the important thing of the vessels is the smooth muscle cells. Smooth muscle cells of the vessel, you see the smooth muscles, and also you can see inside the lumen there are red blood cells. In the left side of your screen you can see there are red blood cells. So red blood cells, and also in the right side of the screen it is written there smooth muscles. You can clearly identify the smooth muscles, the nucleated cells, fusiform in structure, they are smooth muscles. And in the left side of the screen, within the lumen there are blood. So this is a histology. This is a kind of a histology of a vascular system. So at the same time, the blood vessels are also surrounded by various kinds of connective tissue. So we see several things. One is the muscular element or smooth muscle system of the vessel. Also it is containing the blood or RBC, and as a whole it is ensheathed or covered, surrounded by connective tissue. Now clearly a vessel has got several layers. A typical vessel has got several layers, which we classically know as tunica intima, tunica media, and tunica adventitia. Tunica intima, tunica media, and tunica adventitia. Tunica intima is the innermost layer or the epithelial layer. Vascular epithelium is also known as endothelium, tunica intima. Tunica media is the middle layer or the muscle layer, and outermost layer is the tunica adventitia, which is a fibrous layer. But in between these three layers, there is also internal and external elastic lamina. So there is also elastic element are also present in these vessels. So if we see the labels, so this is the endothelium or tunica intima. This is the basement membrane, because as it is epithelium or endothelium, it must rest on a basement membrane. So it is the basement membrane on which this single layer of epithelium or endothelium is resting. Then it is the lamina propria or smooth muscle connective tissue. Lamina propria, it is another layer. Lamina propria, on which it is a supporting layer, followed by internal elastic membrane or internal elastic lamina, followed by tunica media, that means smooth muscle cells or vascular smooth muscles, followed by another elastic layer or external elastic lamina, and also there are vascular nerve twigs which is supplying the vessels. It has also supplied, not I forgot to label it, but the outermost layer is the tunica adventitia. So these are the various layers. There are three clean-cut layers: tunica intima, tunica media, and tunica adventitia, and in between there are two internal and external elastic lamina. So these are the main 5 layers, and as it is epithelium, it must have some supporting layer, that is basement membrane, and lamina propria. So any epithelial layer has got these two supporting systems. One is a basement membrane or basal lamina, and also lamina propria, which is helping that endothelium to move or to change its shape. This is an easier diagram. This is an easier diagram taken from Gannon's textbook. So it is clearly tunica intima, in the right side tunica intima, tunica media, and tunica adventitia, and in between there are external elastic lamina and internal elastic lamina. So truly speaking, in a typical vessel, there are several elements. There are epithelial element, that means endothelium. There is muscular element, that is smooth muscles. There is fibrous tissue element, that is adventitia, and there is elastic element like internal and external elastic lamina. So there are several elements are there. Some are endothelial or epithelial element, muscular element, and fibrous tissue element, and also elastic element are also there. So this is another diagram, same thing, same information. So tunica intima, tunica media, tunica adventitia. Intima is nothing but endothelium, and also there is internal and external elastic lamina. So these are the various layers. So now I probably expect that my students can easily reproduce what are the various layers of a typical vessel. What are the various layers of a typical vessel? What are the various structural elements present in a typical vessel? Now, one thing you need to remember, these very components of these various structural elements are not equally distributed in all the vessel. In some vessel, it is the muscular element which is predominant. In some other vessel, it is the elastic element which is predominant. In some other vessels, it is the fibrous tissue element which is predominant. In some other vessels, nothing is there, only intima or endothelium is prevalent. So, what I have described till now, the various layers and various elements, structural elements, it is of a typical vessel. It is not true, it is not equivalently and equally true for all portion of the vascular tree. It is not equally or equivalently true for all section of vascular tree. It is the general description of a typical vessel, right? So with this background, with this structural information in the backdrop, with this kind of structural information in the backdrop, let us enter into something else. So let us enter into the arterial system. As I have mentioned, arterial system are of distinctly three types. One is large elastic vessels, large muscular distributing arteries, and small arteries and arterioles. So let's see. So what are large elastic vessels? Large elastic vessel is aorta and its immediate branches. That means large arteries. So aorta and its immediate branches, like large arteries like subclavian artery, common carotid artery, brachial artery, etc. These large arteries, aorta and its immediate branches, they are large elastic vessels. How they look like? See, this is the cross section of a large artery, and these upper part, that this folded kind of thing, layers, folded kind of layers or semi-folded kind of layers, huge thickness of semi-folded kind of layers is the elastic element. The uppermost is the endothelial element, below which a large area is the elastic element. Elastic element, because it is the large vessels are having elastic predominance, elastic tissue predominance. It is mainly known as large elastic vessels. So it is the elastic tissue which predominates here. So this is one thing. So this is a very brief description. So it is the large vessels having a greater preponderance of elastic element. Now next let us discuss about the muscular distributing artery. Try to understand this phrase, large or medium size muscular distributing artery. Every word is important. One is muscular, so it is predominantly muscular. Distributing means it distributes. It is responsible for distribution purpose. I will try to explain each meaning of each of these words. So you can very clearly see here the elastic element is reduced and the muscular element, this dark color muscular element is increased and elastic element is reduced quite low. Outer is endothelium and after that tunica media, this dark colored muscular zone and elastic element is reduced much. So it is mainly the muscular organ or muscular vessels having large amount of muscular element. We shall discuss detail about muscular. So you can very clearly see. So it is a large muscular vessels where this yellowish is the media where large muscular elements are present. Large amount of muscular elements are present. There are two distinct part is there. In one, there is a relatively lesser amount of elastic element, and in the right, although there are muscular vessels, but having some degree of elastic element. In blue, that coiled structure is some degree of elastic element is also there, but muscular vessels are mainly in the main having lesser amount of elastic element. They are mainly muscular nature. And finally, the small arteries and arterioles. The small arteries and arterioles, major issue is arterioles, terminal arterioles, precapillary sphincters and meta-arterioles. What are they? So arterioles, terminal arterioles, precapillary sphincters and meta-arterioles. Now these things, small arteries and arterioles are mainly muscular in nature, having predominant muscular element. So you can see in one side there is arteriole, that red pipe-like structure arteriole, From there are meta-arterioles has originated, end arterioles and meta-arterioles, and meta-arterioles are finally ending into end arterioles, and then it is branched and it is forming a network of capillaries, and just before the capillaries all the muscular element condenses in a single point and thereby forming precapillary sphincter. It is difficult to explain here. I like to use some board. I will try to show you this part in drawing on some board. I will try to do it later, but for the time being you just remember that arteriole, meta-arteriole, then end arteriole, and arteriole, meta-arteriole, end arteriole, all are muscular in nature, having predominant smooth muscle, vascular smooth muscle, and at the end of it, finally, all the muscular elements are condensed and terminated at the precapillary sphincter. And beyond the precapillary sphincter, that means in the capillary, there is neither any muscular element nor any elastic element. There is no muscular element and no elastic element. There is only single layer of endothelium which is resting on the basement membrane. That's all. So single layer of endothelium or epithelium which is resting on the basement membrane or basal lamina, and after that they will combine to form post-capillary venule. It will form small vein, medium sized vein, large vein and vena cava. So this is how the branching is taking place. From arteriole up to this venular level. So what is arteriole? Arteriole diameter is around 100 to 50 micron in diameter. There are fragmented sheath of connective tissue. Gradually the connective tissue or the fibrous element are getting reduced, and there are 2 to 4 layers of smooth muscle cells in arterioles. So in arterioles the average diameter is around, it is reducing from 100 to 50 micron in diameter, and around 2 to 4 layers of smooth muscle cells. In our regular class, I used to draw it in the blackboard or in whiteboard. You just try to visualize that. Now let us say something about the vascular smooth muscle. So this is very important. So vessels containing smooth muscle, you know there are three types of muscle we have already described. One is a skeletal muscle, striated, and this cardiac muscle we described in detail, that is also striated. And in contradiction to that, there is a kind of muscle known as smooth muscle without having any striation. So smooth muscle do not have any striation. Smooth muscles are mainly present in the vessels and viscera in organs, mainly in the hollow organs like stomach, like intestine, like ureter, etc., like gallbladder, bile duct, etc. So these hollow organ tubes, etc., these smooth muscles are present. They are known as smooth muscles. These smooth muscles may be vascular or visceral. So this is we are discussing the vascular smooth muscle. The visceral smooth muscle you somehow described during GI tract, gastrointestinal physiology. Here we shall mainly describe the vascular smooth muscle. Now truly speaking, vascular smooth muscles are of two types. One is single unit type, another is multi-unit type. Single unit type, another is known as multi-unit type. Single unit type is also known as visceral smooth muscle. So single unit type or multi-unit type. What do we mean by single unit and what do we mean by multi-unit? So there are two kind of vascular smooth muscle, as I have mentioned. One is single unit, another is multi-unit. The diagram A is the multi-unit and diagram B is the single unit. You can very clearly see in the single unit the individual smooth muscle cells. See the individual smooth muscle cells, they are connected with each other by a gap junction. So there is a cluster of adjacent smooth muscle cells, a cluster of smooth muscle cells which are remaining adjacent to each other, and they are connected with each other by a gap junction, and this gap junction is constituted by an hexagonal array of proteins which are known as connexins. You all know that. So they are connected with each other, and with a single nerve fiber, when that nerve fiber is stimulated, these several connected smooth muscles cluster, they will act as a single unit. They will act as a single unit and will act in unison, act in combination. So that is single unit. Whereas the figure number A, which is multi-unit, you see each of the single smooth muscle cell, they are separately innervated. They are separately innervated. Each of them are separately innervated, and there is no structural or any functional connection between the adjacent smooth muscle cells. So the adjacent smooth muscle cells, they are not either structurally or functionally connected, and each of them are individually innervated. Whereas in case of single unit smooth muscle system, there is a cluster of adjacent cells who are connected with each other by gap junction containing connexins, and a single neural innervation will lead to a combination action, and all those connected smooth muscle cells, they act as a single unit. Now what happens, this multi-unit smooth muscles in our vascular system, both this kind of cells are present. Both of these kind of cells are present. In the large artery, in aorta and its immediate branches, or in large artery, it is the multi-unit smooth muscles. It is the multi-unit smooth muscles which are predominant. So it is the multi-unit smooth muscles which are predominant. And in the small arteries less than 50 micron in diameter, or then arterioles, meta-arterioles, end arterioles, precapillary sphincter, etc. in this region, it is the single unit smooth muscle. So in the large arteries, it is mainly the multi-unit smooth muscle, and in the small arteries and arterioles, meta-arterioles, end-arterioles, precapillary sphincter, it is the single unit smooth muscle, and in the medium size artery it is a combination. Truly speaking, it is a kind of a transformation. I cannot show you in the blackboard. It is a kind of transformation. If you think like a tube of a vessel, in the big vessels, in the large arteries, the smooth muscles are oriented in a spiral manner. The smooth muscles are oriented in a spiral manner. It is a spiral manner. So there is a tube, and in the wall of the tube, the smooth muscles are oriented longitudinally in a spiral manner. Shorpin, it is a spiral manner. As the arteries are getting smaller and smaller and its diameter is getting smaller and smaller, the spiral nature of the smooth muscle orientation is gradually reduced, and it is gradually getting condensed. That means spiral dimension is gradually compressed, reduced, and it is gradually getting compressed, and a point of time will come in the arterioles and small arterioles. It is the smooth muscles are not spiral in nature, it is continuous in nature. So it is a continuous covering of the smooth muscle, right? So the multi-unit smooth muscles, which are mainly present in the large arteries, they are oriented in a spiral manner, whereas single unit smooth muscles, which are mainly present in the smaller arteries, they are situated in a continuous manner. And as it is getting down and down, beyond the precapillary sphincter, even in the meta-arteriole, the amount of smooth muscle is reduced too much, and at the end of the meta-arteriole, end arteriole, there is all the smooth muscles gets condensed, and in the capillary there is no smooth muscle, right? So this is the picture of microcirculation, and this picture of microcirculation I shall utilize time and again during my lecture to elucidate certain issues. So what are the terminal arteries? Terminal arteries are those arteries which are having less than 50 micron in diameter. There is no internal lamina, no internal elastic lamina, and the smooth muscle is single layer in nature. It is a single layer smooth muscle. Earlier there are multi-layer smooth muscle. There is a single layer smooth muscle. So you can see the terminal arteriole at the end of the arteriole. So it's a single unit smooth muscle or single layer of smooth muscle. In the meta-arteriole, now meta-arteriole is again very typical. Meta-arteriole is a kind of a perpendicular debouching. Perpendicular debouching. That means side branches which are emerging. Debouching means emerging at the right angle from the terminal arteriole. So it's a right angle terminal arteriole or right angle generation, and its diameter is around 10 to 15 micron in diameter and having a single layer of smooth muscle, or there is a sparse amount of smooth muscle. Smooth muscle is already reduced. So meta-arterioles are perpendicular debouching. Please remember this term. Side branches are debouching at right angle from the terminal arteriole. So see the picture. See, it is all the arterioles, most of the branches are almost perpendicular in nature. Perpendicular and near perpendicular. So branch which are emerging from its parent vessels are usually perpendicular or near perpendicular debouching, and meta-arteriole also simply like that. And what is precapillary sphincter? Precapillary sphincter is the condensation of the circular smooth muscle element at the junction with the terminal arteriole. So at the end is the terminal arteriole, and at the end of the terminal arteriole there is condensation of circular smooth muscles. Condensation of circular smooth muscles. Beyond that there is capillary without any smooth muscle, without any elastic element, without any elastic lamina, only endothelium which is supported by basal membrane or basement membrane. So again I repeat this picture of microcirculation. If we are able to draw this one, it is a very good one, very good picture which will give you good idea. This picture I have taken from Gannon. Next is capillary. Now, what is capillary? Capillary is a single layer structure. Capillary is a single layer structure. So, there is basement membrane or basal lamina on which there is a single layer structure, and within the single layer structure there are sometimes some pores are there. Pores are also known as holes or fenestrae. Fenestra is singular and fenestrae is plural. So, this is a picture of a typical capillary. Now, capillaries are of many types. One is a continuous capillary. One is a continuous capillary. Just try to imagine. I cannot use the chalkboard. Just a single layer of basement membrane. If I draw it here, let me try to draw it. If it is a single layer of basement membrane, so if we draw it, so it's a continuous capillary. Suppose this is a single layer of basement membrane, and on which there are continuous capillaries like this. So each having a nucleus, each of the cell having a nucleus. So this kind of capillary, the single layer of basement membrane on which there is single layer of cells, epithelial cells known as endothelial cells. And fenestrated capillary means same thing. Fenestrated capillary means same thing. Suppose this is the basement membrane, and there is a type of capillary. There is a type of capillary. This is a capillary cell, but there is a sometimes there is a gap. There is a small pore or fenestration here, small pore here, and then again there is capillary cell. So this kind of thing. So through this pore, substance can enter or exit like this. So this is fenestration means there are porous capillary. Fenestration means there is porous capillary. And finally is a discontinuous capillary. That means if this is the basement membrane, there are some capillary endothelium followed by a gap. There is again some capillary endothelium. So right. So there is a clear gap in between discontinuous capillary. It is also known as sinusoidal capillary. So there are three kind of capillary. One is continuous capillary, second is fenestrated capillary where there is a pore, and third is a discontinuous capillary or sinusoidal capillary where there is sinusoid, like liver sinusoid, bone marrow capillary, sinusoidal capillary, etc. So capillary is a single layer structure resting on the basement membrane. It is either continuous or porous or fenestrated, or it is discontinuous or having sinusoidal gap. Now, continuous capillary we usually see in usual somatic vessels. Fenestrated capillary we usually see in visceral vessels, and discontinuous capillary we see in sinusoid like spleen sinusoid, liver sinusoid, bone marrow sinusoid, etc. So, continuous capillaries are usually somatic, fenestrated capillaries are usually the visceral or organic, and discontinuous capillary is usually sinusoidal, either in bone marrow or liver or spleen like this, where very big size substances are being transported, like cells, RBC, WBC, big size cells are required to be transported out or in. There we get sinusoidal capillary. So this is a structure of a capillary. This is structure of a typical capillary of a single layer capillary. This is again a structure of the capillary where we can see certain pores or fenestration. The arrow marks certain pores or fenestration, and inside the lumen you can see the blood vessels, etc. So this is a representative diagram of capillary structure. So this is a capillary lumen, and there is a pericapillary space. So this is a kind of a continuous capillary, and individual capillary cell are also being elucidated, having nucleus and all other cytoplasmic organelles, and these capillary lumen also undergo the vesicular transport like endocytosis and exocytosis. That is also being depicted here. Now, one very important thing I like to tell you about the capillaries, although capillary as such does not contain any smooth muscle element. Capillary is typically a single layer resting on the basement membrane. Capillary characteristically does not contain any muscular element, but there are certain loose muscular cells, loose myocytes, sometimes incompletely encircles the capillary. See, there are two such cells in this particular capillary. In the cross section of this particular capillary, one in the above, one is the left side and downwards. So there are isolated smooth muscle cells which incompletely encircles the capillary, and as they are smooth muscle cells, they are having contractile property. Now these kind of specialized smooth muscle cells which incompletely encircles the capillary, they are known as pericyte. They are known as pericyte. So I have shown you two such capillary having pericyte. Pericyte is the isolated loose smooth muscle cells, vascular smooth muscle cells, which incompletely encircles the capillary and having contractile property. And in the right side of the diagram, you can see also the fenestrations. Fenestration. So this is the typical capillary cross section where we can exhibit the pericytes. These pericytes in some other organ have got some other name. Say in pericytes in kidney, in glomerulus is known as mesangium. Mesangium. Mesangium, we shall discuss about mesangial cells or mesangium when we shall discuss the kidney. So this is about another very interesting structure of the capillary. They are pericytes, they are loose muscle cells having contractile property. They incompletely encircles the capillary, as a result of which by their contraction the capillary surface area can be regulated. So the capillary space or capillary surface area can be to some extent regulated by the action of these pericytes, which are loose smooth muscle, vascular smooth muscle cells which can incompletely encircle the capillary. And finally is the vein system. Not much to say about the vein system. So this is vein containing smooth muscle cells, obviously of lesser amount. Right, you can very clearly see an artery and a vein. The upper one is the artery and the lower one is the vein. Artery is clear cut circular structure, vein is to some extent collapsed in a state because venous pressure is quite low, and we are also depicting some of the capillaries. So the upper picture is a small capillary having a strong muscular, having a very strong muscular encircling structure, dark one, and the venous structure is much thinner, much but it is rather in a semi-collapsed state. So these are the structure of an artery and vein. Artery and vein. You can see in the vein, obviously the elastic element is almost nil. The right side is vein, the left side is artery. The right side is vein, so elastic element is quite low. Muscular structure is also quite low. In the main, it is the fibrous element is predominantly more. So in the venous structure, the fibrous element is predominantly more, and fibrous elements are stretchable in nature. So veins are stretchable in nature. Veins are more compliant, more compliant. So you can very clearly compare the ultrastructure of these two. One is artery, a typical artery, and is a typical vein. This typical artery contain tunica intima, tunica media, tunica adventitia. Here The tunica intima is very rudimentary, only endothelium is there, hardly any elastic element. Tunica media is also quite small. The major element, predominantly, proportionately major element is tunica adventitia or fibrous layer. So an artery and accompanying vein we have covered. So this is a vein having tunica adventitia. This is the histological picture of a vein. And finally, there are another kind of vessel which I have not mentioned is the shunt vessels. Shunt vessels are those vessels which can directly transport blood from arterial system to venous system without passing through the capillary. They are also known as thoroughfare vessels. So these thoroughfare vessels or shunt vessels are those vessels you can see here where arterial blood is directly entering into the venous system without being passing through the capillary system. So these kind of vessels are known as shunt vessels or thoroughfare vessels where the arterial blood is directly entering into the venous system without passing through the capillary system, and it has got a lot of importance, crucially important issue which we shall subsequently discuss. So this is all about today's class regarding a brief description about the structure of the vascular tree. In the next class we shall discuss about the structure and function correlation. We shall try to correlate. We shall try to describe the function of each portion of this vascular system and try to correlate the function with the structure. How elastic vessels is elastic and what is its functional importance. How muscular vessels are muscular and what is its functional importance. Why capillaries are single layered and what is its structural and functional correlation. All these things we shall discuss in our next class. Till then, thank you.